Alright, today I want to go over the components of the MBO, MB06 sniper from Well. I've got a couple things already upgraded in here, but I'm just going to run through the functional components first, so that you guys have a good overview of the gun and can make your own decisions when you want to upgrade. So let's start off with the hand grip. So the front has this as the underside, the hand grip. It's also where you feed your magazines into. It's made of a couple different plates on the outside, and I've tried to take them off, but they're really on there. And eventually I just decided that it wasn't worth the hassle trying to unscrew it and then pry up all these things when, you know, odds are it's just one plastic piece screwed into another. One modification I've already made here is I took a very cheap, like $2 sling mount, and I drilled a hole straight through, as you can see, to the other side. And I put a nut back there with two washers to kind of protect the hole, make sure it doesn't widen out too much with the drill, or with the screw, you know, moving around in it. I just put that in there. Another metal component to this is this bipod mount. Honestly, I'm not going to ever run this with a bipod, so it doesn't really have a function on mine. I might take this space and use it to like put in a weaver rail block or something, but we'll worry about that later down the line. In here there's a screw. You can see it pops out on this side. That screw connects up with this bracket, which goes around the barrel and stabilizes the barrel against the handguard and against the receiver and other components. So this is actually important. That one screw is an important component here, but overall the bipod mount not super important. Another thing to note here is that the left hand side has a shallower, you know, I don't know what it's called, shallower rail than the right hand side, and that's why I chose to mount my my sling mount on the right hand side. But you know, just something to note. All right, we've talked about this bracket for the barrel. Let's go for the buttstock. So let's show you here. It's got a pretty cheap handle, which is kind of a bummer, but on the plus side, you can remove it. There's just one little screw in there, and another one in the base, but maybe that's going to be something that I take apart later on. Not going to be my next upgrade, but anyways, very simple lower receiver area, very simple buffer tube. Buffer tube has a little flap in back that you can take apart, and then down in there there's a little screw that holds this thing tight against the lower receiver. So the reason this is covered in grease right now is because the stock I'm using is aftermarket stock that I bought on Amazon for 25 bucks. Unfortunately, the stock is a little tight on this receiver, or on this buffer tube. So originally I was going to Dremel the buffer tube, but then I decided, what if I want a new stock someday? So I decided to Dremel down the inside of the butt stock that I have. But it's an aftermarket part. We can always talk about it later. But anyways, most stocks will fit on this buffer tube. It's a pretty standard buffer tube, just apparently not the one I bought. All right, let's go for the receiver now. The upper receiver, pretty simple. Just a big old heavy piece of steel. This is definitely the weight of the rifle. Practically all the weight is in this. This little piece here, it honestly just seems like a spacer. I can't figure out its function. I kind of dinged it up a little bit, taking out the barrel. I was really aggressive with this piece, which was a mistake, but I don't think it has any genuine function on the gun, so it doesn't really matter that much. Inside here, there's a little plastic piece. This is just a spacer that goes between the barrel and the receiver. There's a little nub at the bottom here, so there's a nub down this hole, which I doubt you can see. That nub's just to keep things centered. This obviously has a split for it and allows you to go, right back there and make sure everything's lined up. The barrel also has a nub at the back of it, and that fits, down in that hole, and it allows you to make sure everything's aligned. The cylinder is proprietary. The cylinder fits obviously right in the back, slides into the receiver. It's a proprietary cylinder. This is not the stock one. This is one that I bought from Airsoft Pro. This is a steel one, and it's blackened inside. And this is also not the cylinder head that comes with the gun. This is another aftermarket one. Also, obviously, my piston and my spring guide are aftermarket as well. These guys are both metal. This one's steel. This is kind of a mix of aluminum and steel. Doesn't have the greatest seal in the world, which is kind of a bummer, but that's okay. But yeah, it's a pretty simple system. The stock ones that it comes with are plastic, so honestly, this would all be, you don't have to replace the cylinder. The cylinder is aluminum that it comes with, but everything else comes plastic, and so I would replace it immediately. The only reason I'm not putting a spring in there right now is because I don't have a spring that fits this gun right now, so I'm waiting on that, but that's the deal. All right, this is the trigger mechanism, which is actually a fine trigger mechanism. This puppy's great. So this, goes into the receiver, and then it'll strap into here. And just as a functional comparison, so this has a little nub on it. So that nub goes in like that, and it sits in here and catches the spring. It's a spring guide. It's a spring guide stopper, and so it holds the spring guide back there, allows you to pull this in, and then you can pull down that piston, and it'll catch on the 90-degree sear up here. All right, and finally we come to the barrel. So the inner barrel has, this is a little stabilizing screw. I've just left it up so that I can know where it goes back to. It fits through this little hole on the outer barrel. This is your hop-up adjustment screw. That's what you're reaching to through the hand grip. It's honestly a pretty solid looking hop-up chamber. I don't really have any complaints about it. It looks pretty good. These are cheap barrel spacers, obviously. I'm going to keep those for the new barrel I'm going to put in here. But yeah, not bad. It's a brass barrel. It's kind of wide, but it's not the end of the world. It's really not a bad way to start. And then this is going to be the next piece I upgrade. I'm actually going to go out to Home Depot, get some calipers, measure this puppy, and try to size it up, and then make a carbon fiber version. Will that actually save me any weight? No, because all the weight is in this steel receiver. But it's going to look cool, which is half the battle in Airsoft. And it'll be really easy and kind of a fun thing to do, because when I took this out, I thought it would be a screw fit sort of thing, but it turns out it's just a friction fit. All I got to do is Dremel a tiny little nub here so that it fits on the bottom, and then in a perfect line I need to add these holes, which honestly I'm pretty confident I can do with my Dremel. I don't think I need like any super serious machinery to do this. So yeah, so this will become carbon fiber. I'll put it back together and slide this all in, and we'll see what we got. These screws just tie everything together. These screws are for the trigger going into the receiver up here. You know what this is. And these hold the body in against the guard and to the barrel and cylinder and receiver. So yes, now you have an overview of the parts. Here's a spring I was working with. Didn't quite work out. It's too stiff, and it won't let me pull it back. But so that's why this isn't in here right now. But yeah, we'll see where we can go, and I'll show you the stock. Just for funsies, I'll show you the stock, butt stock. It's pretty solid actually. It's got a component in here, little battery pack component, which obviously you don't need in a spring sniper. It's got QD sling points, which work, which is great, 2 of them. It's actually not a bad stock at all. I just wanted a cheap riser. And this is what the old cylinder looked like. You know, I kept the same bolt handle and everything. I just flipped it from here, or from here to here. But yeah, this is the aluminum cylinder. It's actually totally fine. There's nothing really, you know, special about the steel one relative. They both work. You know, and I think the aluminum would hold up for a long time too. The cylinder head does kind of suck. And that's one piece of this that probably should be updated. It's brass. It's got no padding. It's cup based. It's just not the world's best. Let's see. Piston's really in here. Jeez. Well, anyways, here's the plastic piston, the original spring, and the spring guide. The reason I don't have this spring in this new setup is this spring is actually pretty thin, which is a problem. See, this one's much thicker, even though this is too tough to go in there. That thin spring pops right out of these grooves in the new piston, so I can't use this spring. But that's what it looks like. It's plastic. You should replace this immediately. Everything else though is pretty secondary. Except for making a carbon fiber outer barrel, which will have no impact on performance, but will look frickin' sweet. And that's all for today.